Commander Kale, 7 stood motionless on the bridge of the dreadnought Harbinger of Silence, his optical sensors fixed on the approaching anomaly. The tactical display showed nothing but a single, unmarked vessel drifting through the void between sectors, its hull a patchwork of scavenged alloys and what appeared to be welded-on armor plating. It was the third such contact this cycle, each one more baffling than the last. What do the archives say? Kale 7's voice synthesizer modulated to convey the appropriate level of disdain. The ship was an affront to galactic order, a chaotic jumble of nonsensical additions that defied all known principles of biomechanical efficiency. The response came from the ship's AI, its tone flat and clinical. No match in the central database. The vessel appears to be constructed from at least 47 distinct species technologies, including several extinct civilizations. Kale 7 extended a manipulator limb, tracing the projected trajectory. They are not organized. They are not logical. They are not us. And that, more than any fleet or weapon, was what made the humans so terrifying. They were the universe's ultimate contradiction, a species that achieved the impossible through sheer, unadulterated unpredictability. The human ship, designated USS Chimera by the Central Intelligence Directorate, was a cacophony of contradictions. Its bridge was a cramped, claustrophobic mess of blinking screens, tangled wires, and discarded food containers. Captain Eva Rostova leaned back in her command chair, feet propped up on a console, sipping from a mug that read, "World's Okayest Captain." "So," she said, taking a slow sip, "the big scary bioship is hailing us again." Her first officer, a grizzled veteran named Jax, grunted without looking up from his station. "They've been tracking us for 3 light years, Captain." Kale 7 sending another cease and desist message. Something about galactic purity and biological harmony. Eva chuckled, a sound that was far too cheerful for the circumstances. Biological harmony? Sweetie, I can't even get my crew to agree on the best brand of instant noodles. You think we're worried about their version of harmony? She took another sip, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of amusement and genuine curiosity. The problem was, she didn't know why they were being hunted. The Harbinger and its ilk were ancient, powerful, and utterly obsessed with maintaining a natural order that seemed to involve crushing anything that didn't fit their rigidly defined mold. And humans, with their tendency to bolt a rocket engine onto a flying brick and call it a spaceship, were the ultimate violation of that order. On the bridge of the Harbinger of Silence, Kale 7 received the humans' response. It was not a formal declaration, not a tactical maneuver, but a simple, garbled audio file. When translated, it was the sound of a human laughter, followed by the phrase, "Oh, you poor, misunderstood, shiny space rocks." The crew of the biomechanical ship fell into a state of stunned silence. Kale 7's processors whirred, trying to categorize this new development. Was it a taunt? A form of psychological warfare? The humans were masters of such things, weaponizing concepts that the collective found utterly alien. Irony, sarcasm, and a bafflingly effective use of what they called memes. But this felt different. It wasn't aggressive. It was dismissive, as if the humans were not even taking their ancient, galaxy-spanning empire seriously. It was a level of disrespect that the collective had not encountered in its 10,000-year history. Kale 7 initiated a deep-dive analysis of human culture, sifting through the terabytes of data they had managed to acquire. The conclusion was both infuriating and perplexing. The humans did not fear them. In fact, they seemed to view the biomechanical entities as little more than cosmic bullies, and bullies, the humans had learned, could often be defied. Deep within the Chimera's engineering section, Chief Engineer Ben Carter was having a conversation with the ship's warp core. It was humming contentedly, a low, pleasant thrum that Ben had always found soothing. "All right, you old beast," he said, patting a thick, radiation-shielded conduit. "Let's see what you can do. The big metal folks are getting a little too close for comfort." The warp core pulsed in response, a soft blue light deep within its housing. Ben grinned. "That's my girl." He then turned to a small, spherical drone that was hovering nearby, its single optical lens blinking. "And you little menace, are you ready to play?" The drone, which Ben had affectionately nicknamed Sparky, chirped in a series of electronic beeps. "Good. Because we're about to introduce our friends to the concept of unforeseen variables. The humans' greatest tactical advantage was not their weapons or their shields, but their ability to improvise. They didn't fight wars by the book, they wrote the book as they went along, often using household appliances and spare parts to achieve tactical objectives that would make a collective strategist's logic circuits overload. Kale, 7 watched the tactical display as the Chimera executed a maneuver that was, by every known law of physics and warfare, suicidal. The human vessel dove directly into the gravitational well of a nearby nebula, a region of chaotic ion storms and spatial distortions that the collective had designated as impassable. The Harbinger's sensors screamed with warnings, but Kale, 7 held his ground. They cannot survive in there, he stated, more to himself than to his crew. The collective's ships were precision instruments, designed for clean, efficient combat in the open void. To enter such a chaotic environment was to invite destruction. But the humans did not seem to care. They thrived in chaos. They saw not a deadly hazard, but a shortcut, a hiding spot, a place where the rules of galactic warfare no longer applied. Kale 7's internal conflict grew. The collective's entire existence was predicated on order, on understanding and controlling the universe. The humans represented the ultimate antithesis of that philosophy. They were not just chaotic, they found beauty in it. They saw a nebula and imagined a dragon, a monster, a god. They personified the cosmos, and in doing so, they could bend it to their will in ways that pure logic could never comprehend. Inside the nebula, Eva Rostova felt a surge of pure, unadulterated joy. The ship shuddered and groaned around her, but to her, it was a symphony. "Jax, status," she called out over the din. "Engines are singing, Captain. We're dancing with the stars." Outside the viewport, the nebula was a swirling vortex of color and light. Eva had named it Celeste's Veil, after a mythological figure from Earth's folklore. She wasn't sure if Celeste was a goddess, a spirit, or just a very poetic human, but it didn't matter. The name gave the phenomenon a personality, a presence. And that presence, she believed, was on their side. "All right, team," she said, her voice full of infectious energy. "Let's show our chrome-plated friends what happens when you mess with storytellers." The humans were firing not just their weapons, but their imaginations. They broadcasted a series of holographic projections into the nebula. Giant, roaring beasts made of pure light, spectral warriors brandishing ethereal swords, and a colossal, weeping angel that seemed to fill the void with sorrow. The projections were not real, but they were convincing. And in a place where reality was already fluid, conviction was a weapon more powerful than any plasma cannon. Kale, 7 stared in disbelief as the tactical feed from the nebula dissolved into madness. The human ship was not hiding. It was attacking, not with kinetic projectiles or energy beams, but with illusions. Giant, spectral creatures of light and shadow were swarming the Harbinger, their forms shifting and changing, defying any attempt to be cataloged or understood. The collective's weapons systems were designed to target physical objects, to predict and counter known threats. These phantoms were neither. They were a form of psychic assault, an attack on the very ability of the biomechanical entities to perceive reality. Kale 7's processors were flooded with conflicting data streams, his logic gates overwhelmed by the paradox of a weapon that was also not a weapon. The crew of the Harbinger began to falter, their movements becoming jerky, uncertain. The humans had not just entered their minds, they had remade them in their own chaotic image. The ancient, unshakable certainty of the collective was crumbling, replaced by a terrifying, alien concept, doubt. And as the spectral dragon of light coiled around the Harbinger's hull, its jaws opening in a silent roar, Kale, 7 finally understood the true nature of humanity's power. They did not just fight their enemies. They became their worst fears, and they wore them like a crown.